don't look at this number yet to do your 50 plus 1 because you would be lost and you will be deceived. We are going to walk you through that division. We are going to account for ballots that are rejected.
Yep.
We are going to account for the voter turnout, and then we'll walk you through slowly how we are going to arrive at that big victory number, the number that you need to be the next president of Ghana come January 7th,
2025. So, Ima, I think I'll stay here, and I don't know whether you are ready so that we walk them through the numbers. Are you ready to walk them through?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
So
I am.
I don't know. So, Ima, I think you're going to go there. We are going to do some maths together today. We are going to walk through each other, and at the end of the day, we come to that figure. So, where do we start from, Emmanuel?
Let's start off with the total registered voters. The number we have there is 18,774.
No, go back. 74.
Right.
So go back. We have 744. So go back. So 774.
744.
Okay.
159.
Okay.
So, you have added 30,000 people to the list.
Yes, so it's
Of registered voters.
Calm down.
Okay.
Calm down.
No,
I could still narrate my 4.
Okay.
Calm down. There's always a trick to
That's a
this
good
number.
one.
There's
a
always
good
a trick
one.
to this.
So, Ima, we
that's what
start
we are
from-
looking at.
Yeah.
18 million people to vote. But indeed, the 18 million, not all will turn up. If you look at the historical trend, and I'm sure Adam will take us through that, we have constantly moved from 1 million, 10%. We started off around 6 million in 1992,
Yep.
and to 2020 we are doing around 17 million, and now we are hovering around 18.7 million people. Now, if you look at the data from 1992 to 2020, we take out 1992 because it's an outlier.
Yeah. So if you look at the data, and I told you to take note of the voter turnout, you realize that with the exception of 1992, that voter turnout was at 50%. Every other year, we have done in excess of 65%.
Exactly.
So
With
that's
2004 being the peak year, we had 85.1, and the
Fantastic.
lowest ever being 61.9%.
Fantastic.
So if you're looking at the percentage increase in total valid voters for every year, we are seeing that anytime we have an increase by 10%, the voter turnout hovers around between 70 to 80%. Every now and then we have an increase by 10%.
Yeah.
And mind you, from 17 to 18, we are having around an increase by 10.25%. So you wouldn't be lost if your analysis spoke that this particular year, we are going to see a voter turnout around 70 to 80% in this particular electoral cycle.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the first leg where we look at the change in electoral cycle each year. So as you rightly said, we've moved from 17 million in 2020 to 18.8 million in this year's election, which is a jump of 10.25, which shows that we are likely to do between 70%
To 80%.
to 80%. Now there's another leg we can also do. And in the other leg, you can actually find the average of the voter turnout for all the 7 election cycles without the outlier of 1992, which is 50.2. Now, when you do that, in 1996, so if you're at home, you can pick a calculator. Let's walk through this math together. In 1996, we had 78.2%. In 2000, 61.7%. In 2004, 85.1%. In 2008, 72.9%. In 2012, 79.4%. In 2016, 68.6%. And in 2020, 79.0%. Now, if you find the average of this, we are going to get a percentage of 75. No, Ima, you can just write it just right under this. So 75%. So if you look at historical, and if you move to the next slide, you're going to see that figure right on your screen if you move to the next slide. So what you see is that historically, if you find the average of our voter turnout, you are getting a turnout of 75%.
Mathematically, what we call it is the midpoint, where we are seeing it as the best between the 70 and then the 80. Close enough is the safest bet to be around the midpoint,
Yes.
75%.
Yes.
But then we want to entertain something in here. When you enter a room, let's explain this simply. You enter a room where you're guessing the age of so many people. So we are all here, I'm guessing. Joshua is 100 years. Sarah is around 30 years. Adam is around 40 years. Joshua, don't be worried about the 100. It's okay. 100 is good.
Oh, no, I'm good with 100.
God gave us 70. I've added 30 from Sewat. Yours is 100.
God
It's
bless
fine.
you. God
Like,
Amen.
what happens to my 30?
You pray to God for
But
more.
I thought ladies are okay.
So we're guessing your ages, but I want to entertain a certain level of error that would say, I want to be confident, just to give us a certain room to say that, okay, so I'm guessing you 100, I'm guessing you 30, I'm guessing you 60, but I want to put myself in a position where if I add or I subtract, it means that I wouldn't lose ground. I'm in a safe place. And so we want to entertain that margin of error in our calculation so that we have it correctly done.
So, talking about margin of error, if you follow the posters, those who have done posts a lot, they speak a lot about the margin of error, and that is why we've also equally factored that in. It's a very interesting calculation, but when you do that calculation at the end of the day, your margin of error is just around plus or minus 5%, which at the end of the day still falls within the 70% and 80% voter turnout that we are projecting. So, from here, our analysis and our indication shows that come tomorrow at 7 a.m. when election starts and it ends by 4 p.m., we are guaranteed that voter turnout at the end of the day will fall between 70 and 80%. So the next question you have to ask yourself as a politician, if I'm having 70% of voters turning up, what is that number I need? If I'm having 75% showing up, what is that number I need? Or if I'm having 80% voted showing up, what is that number I need?
So we're doing it from the 70 to the 75 to the 80. So I'll start off with the top, which Adam enjoys so much, the 80%. We're looking at 15 million people turning up tomorrow. If you're looking at the mid, around 75%, we are looking at close to 14 million people turning out. If you look at the 70%, we are looking at around 13.1 million people turn out. But as an accountant, and my IAS2 is still in my mind, you take the lower of cost, because it's inventory accounting, I'm taking stock of the voter population. So I'll stick with the midpoint of 75%.
Do you see how he just said, as an accountant and with my IES, and it's like he has the whole thing in his mind, and he's just...
No, that's how come he passed the exam.
No, but you see...
These two are very intelligent.
No, so that is where I differ with him.
Okay.
So
as an accountant, as an actuary.
Yes, so as an actuary, you're actually looking at your maximum. So at the end of the day, this is not as though you are going for a procurement where you would want to find out your least cost. This is where you are trying to look at, in the worst case scenario, what is the highest amount of vote I need? So if you go and you project and you go for a 70%, and then there's a voter turnout of 80%, and you calculate your 50 plus 1 based on that 70%, and the voter turnout ends up being 80%, what it means is that your projection is undershot and you are lacking behind. So based on this, and I think at the end of the day, we had an agreement that to be on the safe side, each political party would have to pick the point that is highest, so that at the end of the day, even if that number is so high, it's still able to cover whenever there's a lower voter turnout. So, Ima, I'm sorry you had to lose this, but at the end of the day, we here are working with 80%.
So there's been a verdict already.
That's a very...
I didn't even ask
So
us.
where do we fall? As a journalist, my interest is in the numbers.
Yeah. So we are getting close.
Yeah, we're getting
We are getting
getting
close to
close.
that
Right.
number.
Okay.
The
So
constitutional provision is 50 plus 1. So if we're telling you have the voter turnout of 80%, we are looking at 15 million. So you think if you divide it by 2 plus 1,
you
you're
should
already
get
getting
some
it.
7.5 million.
But there is a factor we are missing out here. Every year at the polls, we are losing ballots because they are rejected. People are not following the right thing. They are tampering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. Or they put their thumbprint on a picture or something. It will be rejected by the EC.
Exactly.
And the percentage we are looking at is around...
Yeah, so we decided that for this year, looking at the number of candidates in there, we are going to go with an upper bound of 2%.
Right.
So what this means is that we are factoring in that 2% likely, we might see about 1.5% of votes. But for the safety of our analysis, and as I said, we usually look at the upper bound in this situation, we are factoring in that we are likely to see up to 2% of votes cast this year being rejected. So, Ima, when you take out 2%, what this therefore means is that we are only going to see about 98% of that 15 million total votes that are coming in.
And that makes up for our total valid votes for this particular electoral cycle.
Yeah. So what is our estimated total valid votes for this
If you're
electoral
starting
cycle?
off for the 80%, we are looking around 15 million. If I'm discounting it by 0.98%, we are looking at some 14.08 million people. 14.7. 14.7 at the upper bound. I'm still stuck with the
That's fine.
The
so
midpoint.
as we sit here from the EIB network, we are projecting, or the EIB research network, we are projecting that at the end of polls, hopefully tomorrow, we could have as many as
14,718,940 people who are going to vote in tomorrow's election.
So
14 million people.
So based on that, if you then come in and calculate your 50 plus 1, what we are telling all the political parties out there, what we are telling you out there, that here at the EIB network, here with the EIB research desk, this number, 7,359,471
is the
is
number
the number
you
you need
to be the next president of Ghana.